Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to this channel. I welcome you all here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time and energy. My name is Anthony. I'm a channeler of several different reptilian and Alpha Draconian groups, including groups I'm genetically connected to, including hybrid groups that I spend a lot of time with, including THETA TAURI white reptilians from the Taurus constellation, and most importantly, 6.9 density Alpha Draconian pureblood race named KALASK, who come from the Thuban star system. I'm also an author of a book named KALASK, My Path to Thuban, which is available now worldwide across Amazon or on our website at www.kalask.ca in the shop area. Other than this, it is June 2026, so a little bit of an updates. In September, I will be returning to Europe for my 4th annual channeling tour of Eastern European countries, starting probably with either Prague or with Belgrade, working our way up across to Poland, perhaps again to Moscow, Russia, down to Bulgaria and Greece and Istanbul. Maybe this time going back to Dubai, depending on the circumstances. Also in October, I'm proud to announce I will be in Japan, in Kobe and in Tokyo, channeling KALASK with a dear friend of mine, and we're organizing this trip now, and more updates will be available on both the Instagram, Facebook, and on the social media that belongs to KALASK Channeling. In tonight's episode, I've asked KALASK to talk about wars, a very sensitive subject to them, a serious subject. And I understand from what I'm told from by the audience across some of the things that are sent to me, comical things that are sent to me, and a lot of misinformation, fear porn, fear mongering when it comes to draconian subjects on the internet, particularly in the love, light, unicorn, and rainbow 5D fairy type of communities that believe some external saviors are coming, some federations are coming, some Ashtars are coming, that we are all receiving free med beds and ascension next Thursday. Of course, none of these things are true. This is the opium for the gullible. The 2026, 2027, 2028, any year, the mass disclosure, open contact, yeah, of course, these things are not true. None of these things will ever happen. Earth is quite occupied and quite carefully managed by a variety of different custodian races that are very, very fine looking at every single aspect of humans' growth, of humans' consciousness, collective consciousness, to see if we are ready. And humanity is not even ready to turn off the lights at nighttime and hear a squeaking sound under the bed or in the closet or outside our homes, never mind for the motherships that are the size of Texas and Florida. So yes, I've asked KALASK to clarify some of these things. I've asked them to speak openly about what it would be like to fight a war against Draconians. What is it like to fight a war? Who would be desiring to fight a war? Which group would want to fight a war? And how did these wars end up in the past? I've asked them which technology did they use to win wars. I've asked them to speak about some of these aspects of these fear-mongering agendas on the internet by the Pleiadians and THETA and Arcturians, that we see a lot of the misinformation and fake channeling, completely fake channeling that's typed up in ChatGPT and AI type of programs, but completely scripted nonsense that the Draconians are being killed and murdered and kicked out of the universe. So I wanted KALASK to speak in the best way that they can, and that's through very raw power, truth, and also with integrity and honor, and this is exactly what they stand for. Enjoy this channeling about KALASK, talking about wars in Thuban and their home, and all of the things that they wish to say. I appreciate your time, I appreciate your energy. Thank you for being here. See you in the next episode of KALASK Channeling, and I greet you all in strength and honor. You are KALASK on his. So we are here to speak about these humanoid wars against Draconians. Isn't this the subject of popularity? Such foolishness, such gullible tchotchkes and foolishness human beings occupy their own minds with, and war is something we're native to. So fine, we'll speak about the wars. In all wars, there's such great destruction, and then after follows such great creation. Wars can be very destructive, such large atrocities of death, but wars can be fascinating educational segments of life, of evolution. So we understand that some human speakers over the years, part of these spiritual communities through your world, speak about things that they have no business speaking about. And this is something we knew, something we know, we're aware of. So the humans we speak through now, the Anthony human and the human part of him and David, and it's always important for the selected and minuscule audience of very smart and strong leaders that desire to evolve and grow, not to pay attention to the fear porn within the internet collective, in the video segment, these distribution, social media sites. Those things cannot teach you anything. Draco constellation. First and foremost, let's look at the map of the Draco constellation. The locations of our own home of Thuban, the locations of Rastaban, the locations of Gisar, the locations of Idashich, the locations that there is no name for. The scientists, as they refer to themselves on your planet, which in our perspective, they're just humans with a job, who name these stars and star systems. Yes, majority of these things are inaccurate. What is the number? 17 is the number of the located, known, and labeled and named stars within the Draco constellation. All of them are occupied by Draco systems of energies, Draco military groups, paramilitary groups, intelligence, counterintelligence, etc. So the most important thing to know is that it's not possible to penetrate the security checkpoints and security systems, but to get to the draconian stars, it's impossible. This has not ever been possible. We'll share one aspect with you, one story which is accurate, which is a very private. There was an instance, one instance at 7.5 years ago of your own time, that a Sirian group of motherships, Sirian group of beings, he came with a large fleet of ships, and they came to speak to a member of one of their own alliance of Sirian groups. But that alliance required them to physically visit a race of beings that reside on a planet, part of a solar system, part of a constellation that we control. So they came with their ships, and we were detecting them prior to them even knowing that we detected them. So we sent our own responsive ships. They were then confronted. The Sirians were then told and asked, "What are you doing here? Why are you here? You have no business in being here." The Sirians then explained that the reason why they're here is solely and only for the purposes of diplomacy, to speak to this own friendly race that belongs into their own Sirian alliance of beings. And that friendly race resides on a particular planet. So we told them to wait. And then we sent our own troops down to this planet. They landed onto this planet and spoke to the leaders within this world there. And yes, the story verified, the story checked out, the Syrians were telling the truth. So we allowed them to pass, we allowed them to go through for the purposes of this diplomatic stewardship visit. And we told them though, that if they come outside of the region and the coordinates that we gave them, that there will be no secondary conversation, that they will be destroyed. They will be immediately destroyed and they will not return home. So they listened, they had their conversation, they stayed for the equivalency of 2 of your human days, and then they left. So this would be one example. There would be a large example because they brought a large armada of ships. So did we. To educate more about the Thuban star, first of all, it's not one star, it's a binary place. This star itself is one of the 3 most important placements within the Draco constellation. Most important historically, most important military. So one of these stories that we can share with you is that we've created a subnet of small groups, scouts group, messenger groups, and also reconnaissance groups that spread throughout the galaxy and surrounding galaxies that will know all things before they even happen. We have the technology to do so, which I'll speak about in a minute. And secondly, we've created a Skynet that gives us at least at a very minimum at 40 light years to know all things before they even come our way. So we don't understand how some human beings would have the audacity to say that some Pleiadian or THETA or Arcturian or any other humanoid race or beings or groups would have a capability to even come close to the draconian system, what do you think we will all do? Hundreds of pure blood races. Secondly, 200,000 of hybrid of our own races would just sit there and twiddle our thumbs. This isn't how things work. This kind of tells us all that we need to know, and this is how we would know that the enemy is coming. But let's look at this Pleiades system, because majority of the videos within the internet collective that we can pick up and see pick apart the brain and the mind of the activity of this human being, things he's told, things he watches, things he sees and hears. We understand there's a large mass campaign of both disinformation, misinformation, fear porn, but also disrespect in relation to all reptilian and all draconian, especially draconian. So you're told that some humanoid beings and humanoid races, some groups of federations and leaders who stand on their ships wearing blue captain uniforms. In our perspective, they look like blue dildos. That's all that they are. Shit stains in the galaxy. So these tampons that they are, that's all. They couldn't battle a war against a pack of turtles on your own planet. Never mind are draconian groups that are 30 to 50 feet in height with 50 to 60 width in the wings. Mental capacity to shut down at 100,000 of these beings with our own psionic powers. That number is given an average. The Pleiades system is a small system. They don't even have their constellation. So what war can they fight? They belong to another custodian. They belong to a vast amount of custodians. So it wouldn't be possible that any Pleiadian fights a war against any Draconian. What la land is this story from? What unrelated reality do they live in? This isn't how things work. It's a very small region. You refer to it as a bunch of sisters, 7 sisters. It seems that there's names attached as long as it sounds very light. So you attach a name of a bunch of sisters, 7 sisters. Fine, we'll go by that name. What did they forget? The custodians of the Taurus system. Taurus system, Taurus constellation is where Pleiades sits in. Majority of the Taurus bosses and managers, as Anthony calls them, are reptilian in nature. Just to the west north of that region sits one of our own groups, also at 6.9 density, one of the most brutal draconian gore races that there is, with wings, with horns, and those are the Demon God group from the Algol star. How do the Pleiadians plan on bypassing that? But if we look at the entirety of this collective, let's say, of constellations that we have our own groups in. We look at the Draco constellation, we understand that. We'll look at the Pleiades system and the Boötes system and any other system, we also understand that. But we can pull troops from any other region, from any star, from any planet, to destroy our enemies, even if we didn't want to move from our own homes. The locations of Simple Capella, the locations of Rigel, the locations of Bellatrix, the locations of Betelgeuse, or any other place from the Orion constellation, places from Jupiter to Gomessa, to Venus, the Beehive Cluster, Leomar, Merak, Swan, Lyra, or any other place in between the Draco constellation and the Taurus constellation. Also, too, humanoid beings and humanoid races are not war races. Insectoids are war races. Reptilians are war races. Felines and avians are war races. Yes, but what humanoid race from Pleiades or any other cluster has ever won a galactic war? What war? War at bowling? Fruit collecting? No, they don't fight wars because they're not war races. An average draconian with wings within our collective is at 50 feet tall. An average humanoid being from any of these collective is at 8 feet tall. So who can they fight? Their own shadows, perhaps. These dildos couldn't fight a pack of turtles, as I've said earlier. So these galactic wars that are fabricated in part of scripted video stories are only being entertained by gullible human beings. Now let's talk about weaponry, things we can tell you about. Considering the fact that Draconians were successful in the Orion Wars, amongst the Morkul and the Dimonga and other subgroups and hybrids we brought. But when the Sikaar came, they didn't even need to fire off a weapon. Everything ceased. And this is how the wars end with us. All things cease. We have capacities and capabilities to draw and summon, even if that term is appropriate, immense levels of energy, immense levels of platonic energy, immense levels of planetary energy, immense levels of energy there's no words for. It isn't something your YouTube videos can teach you about. The weaponry that we can teach you about is something that is as simple as explaining to you when in your own kitchens you place corn seeds in your microwaves, and then you microwave that seed to provide food for you to swallow, the popcorn as the food. So we can do the same. We can simply microwave a planet. We can heat up a planet. We can heat up the water in the planet and turn over that water in an upside down effect so that it actually burns and melts the beings there. We can fire off a hole inside of a planet by creating a projectile that's as big as your Earth, that's as big as your sun, that's as big as the entirety of Arcturus, that's as big as the entirety of Rigel, that's as big as the entirety of Betelgeuse. We can throw a fucking hole through any planetary system or a star regardless of its size or location or what defense systems that they have. Most humanoid races have defense military systems, weaponry. We have offense military weaponry. So you can take a wild guess who'd win. Let's talk about the other weapons. Fine, we can share some things. We can use pulsar technology, scalar technology. We can create the entire storm called a solar storm to turbulize the entire constellation, create some natural catastrophes. We can create artificial tornadoes, not a tornado you see on your Earth, but a tornado that can suck up an entirety of Pleiades and all of the moons and planets there. We can shoot sounds to shoot down any ship, any mothership. We can melt away any ship. We can melt away any structure. We can melt the entirety of planetary system clusters. We can change or alter air temperature to suffocate the entirety of a race. We can send drones as small as sand to detonate and create something equivalent to your nuclear weapons. We can cook an entire race by heating up the surface of that system, surface of that planet, to cook it and create such hot temperature that they would die instantly. So there's a variety of different ways. The weapons of mass destruction. What is the term you use for your weapons of mass destruction? A hypersonic missile at some bomb you drop on Hiroshima or Nagasaki, it killing innocent human beings, destroying it in a genocidal way. We can do it in the same way we would destroy an entire constellation. And this would be very difficult for your mind to comprehend. But imagine you take a constellation, and imagine that we bomb a constellation and then suffocate and kill and burn through all living life, all of its inhabitants. I will give you an example. THETA, one of the shit stains in the armpits of that entire constellation, the shit stain and the little Mickey Mouse playground of these humanoid beings who live there, who are non-military races, to kill and destroy all of the inhabitants and all living life on THETA. It would take less than 2 of human hours. Arcturus. In Arcturus, we're not in war with. They respect us and they know the position of power we hold, so we give them the same respect back. The Arcturus to be destroyed and for all of the inhabitants to be removed out of the existence of life, meaning to end their incarnation, it would take less than 11 of your human hours. At least the Arcturian beings, Arcturian group defense system have some borrowed and leased technology from Andromeda. And we have fought against Andromedan technology before. It is reasonably good. Not great, but it is reasonably good. So Arcturus can at least defend themselves. Now we'll share something else with you. And in fact, we'll authorize Anthony and his human he's worked with in the Bulgaria region to release this particular art rendering. In the November of 1 year ago, what is this year, 2025 of your past year, we've taken the consciousness of this human being and brought him to our own dimension. Not just to linger around some space of Draco, we brought him to the surface of Thuban by placing his consciousness of an avatar body, bringing it up to his own sixth density during one of his own touring of the Europe regions, while residing in the dwelling of a hotel accommodation. This wasn't announced, this wasn't planned, and we wanted it this way. So we've shown him inch by inch, in a capacity which cannot be explained in English, what does Thuban look like? Some of the things that he's observed, and we've given him permission to access, in which is the towers, the crystalline structures that are placed within our own star, all around the star, and pretty much all around the Draconian system. The tower, he's allowed to tap into the crystalline structure that's been assigned to honorary guests and family members and approved human and humanoids, insectoids, and THETA, reptilians and avians is this particular tower that he's proudly depicted. Secondly, he's depicted other towers within our own region as what would be referred to in basic English as the downtown core, but also the towers which would appear to emanate red color, emanate the color of our race, the color of our symbol, the color of our religion. Our towers work from direct consciousness, and because our collective is mostly always unified and bonded, we are within the nest of each other's consciousness. So we're able to upload any individual aspects, question, information, data, wisdom, or events of any experience at any time. Then through generations we've done so, and ultimately manifesting all things we need to for the purposes of our race's survival. And all this is noted in the towers. The towers are too large, too big, at sometimes in the smallest of 21 miles in height. The one Anthony is assigned to is at 6 miles in height. The crystals themselves come from the planet itself. Metals and gems also. Physical structure was then created by the ancient master architects of our race and their minds, and the sensation of simply touching it and receiving data and information or energies natural to us. We can locate any data, pull any data, any info, any galactic history, including most sensitive, private, and military confidential material about any race, from any collective, from any cluster, any star, any government body, any constellation or galaxy, any federation, any alliance or collective, because we have the most strongest and most potent collective that is impenetrable, with largest towers of most dominating and dark collective energy of all of the galaxy members, of all of the galaxy beings. So we find it very surprising that some human being would actually think that some humanoids would be able to kill hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of Alpha Draconians and just easily take over our home. This is our home. If we need to, we will suspend all diplomatic connections, all diplomacy of stewardship and fellowship with any other race that's presently in a conversation or in an alliance with us, and will recreate the Orion Wars, killing and destroying all life that's non-reptilian, all life that's non-draconian. Most importantly, those humans that work with reptilian consciousness deep enough and draconian consciousness deep enough, those beings who work with us, those beings who work with the demon Ga, those beings who work with Morkul, those beings who work with our hybrids or hybrids within the Earth's collective, you know the power we hold, and we need nothing to explain. But we're answering these questions in relation to these humans' questions he's forwarding from other human beings. So how would a war against Draconians end up? It would end up in genocide. Simple answer is there is no war that's ever been won against Thuban. No war has ever been won against Rastaban. No war has ever been won against our collective, because this is where we live. If wars were won, then none of us would exist. All of us already would be dead. We're the one doing the killing when necessary and if necessary. And at this present moment, we're the one doing the managing of the races within the solar system you live and outside of these solar systems. So this war topic is a funny topic, yes, but important one for human beings to know. There would be no war against Thuban. Thuban declares the wars.